Oh, everything is well. Thank you for your patience. I know we had some technical difficulties the other time on my end, so got all of that stuff worked out. So I do appreciate you carving out some more time for me. How you doing today?
Doing good. It's my one day off.
Ah, good, good, good. Yeah, I mean, when I spoke to you, when I saw you actually the other day, and you had your scrubs on, I was like, yeah, you look like you just came from work, not just in there tired, but I could see it in your face. And what's the shift like when you're at work?
So I work from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Wow.
But the oncoming shift comes on at 8. So at 8 p.m. I have to give what we call sign out.
Mm.
That means I have to tell them about all the patients that are in the hospital right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
don't leave until like 8:30, 8:45.
Okay.
Like I live a few blocks away from the hospital, so I get home pretty quick.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Well. Listen, I do appreciate you again. Just being patient and not only just being patient, but also allowing me to interview you. So I wanna kind of just start from the beginning because with my podcast, it's about having conversations with people and kind of like enlightening not only young people about things that they can accomplish, but also for adults and just understanding that perseverance and not giving up um, and trying to glean what what success looks like and how to really kind of overcome adversities. And so when we had a chance to talk, and I heard your message on the Mastermind podcast a few weeks ago, I'm just really appreciative that you reached out to me. So if you don't mind, I want to kind of just start from the beginning. So yeah, we see now the nice suit. We hear that you're a doctor, right? I don't know if people already picked that up, but if not, we'll get into that. But I just want to kind of find out the beginning, like, where you originally from, family. So you tell me, hey, that's we don't need to go there. I'll pause it and take it out. But if you say I'm an open book, I think people, especially our young people, really need to know it's possible, that they can
Definitely,
accomplish it.
definitely.
So where you from originally, Quasi?
So I'm originally from Georgetown, Guyana. I was
Mm,
born in Guyana and lived there for the first 5 years of my life. Then
mm,
I moved to America in 1989,
mm,
Flatbush section of Brooklyn,
mm,
and I grew up in Flatbush.
mm. Okay. And who did you live with, like growing up? Mom, dad, mom?
Yeah. So my mother, my father, and I have a sister.
Okay, okay. And your parents, when they came over to migrated to America, did you all come together as a family, or did you did like one of the parents have to come first and establish themselves? How did that work?
So my parents came first, and then I was staying with my grandmother
Hmm.
a little while in Guyana. Then they brought us over.
How long? How long were you separated from mom
About
and
a,
dad?
about a year.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it. Yeah. Part of the reason why I ask that is because sometimes, there are a lot of people, children whose families have migrated to America, and there's that kind of abandonment of feeling like, why did mom and dad have to leave me? Did you guys go through that or?
No, because my mother and father used to come back and visit us
Mm,
at times.
okay.
So, and my grandparents were in our lives even before they left, so it wasn't that much of a stretch that they weren't there.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good that that wasn't your experience. So you moved here to America, and then basically like in the '90s, late '80s, you went to high school out there and everything. Like, what was that experience
Yeah.
like for you as a teenager?
So I grew up in Flatbush, which it's a little difficult. Not a lot of doctors and lawyers and professionals, young black professionals growing up in Brooklyn. The Bloods and Crips came to Brooklyn around the mid '90s. Violence increased. That's around the time I started high school, '97. I went to high school out here in Brooklyn called Clara Barton High School. And I was more into girls and studying than my studies. And I didn't do so well in high school. I got left back in ninth grade.
Mm,
And my dream of becoming a doctor faded away after that.
mm,
I did what I need to do to catch up to graduate high school on time, but I didn't get accepted in any colleges. And so I joined the United States Army.
mm. So when you were in high school, never gave mom and dad any problems, just like outside of getting. Now, why did you get left back? Was it did what do was it academics or the social life? What was the distraction? What caused it?
I had a lot of extracurricular activities.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He hit us with them vague comments. Extracurricular. You take that for what it's worth. Okay. Extracurricular activities. For our young people who are engaged in extracurricular activities and they have those setbacks in life, no matter what it is, right? What what was it that clicked for you that made you say, okay, don't give up. Let me, all right, I messed up, but I'm not going to give up on myself. Do you remember back then? Like, what was the
So
defining moment for you that made you say, all right, get it together?
the defining moment for me was I got left back in the ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
Then come like 10th, 11th grade time frame, my guidance counselor called me into her office. And I was in there a couple of times before for other things, but this time she was speaking to me and she said, if you keep on going the way you're going, you're not gonna be able to graduate on time. And that's what scared me. I didn't want to become a super senior. They had super seniors back in my, people that taken 5 years to graduate high school.
Okay.
And I didn't want to do that. So I went to night school, summer school, and evening school. And I caught back up. It was never a thing of intelligence. It was just, effort. I wasn't putting forth effort.
Right.
And, in all those communities, people can fail and brush it off. In our community, if you fail or you get a setback, it's harder for us to move forward, unfortunately.
Right.
Because when you're young, you make mistakes. A lot of people make mistakes when they're young. And the difference is other communities, it's easier for them to overcome those challenges.
Right. Agreed. I see it. So when you had those setbacks, as far as your parents, I'm assuming they came here, so they expect and listen, go to school, get good grades, do what you're supposed to do. What was your I'm assuming, so the parents were definitely, all right, listen, you're supposed to go to school, become a professional doctor, lawyer. That I'm assuming that was the kind of direction that you heard at home.
Actually, no.
No.
Because that's what they wanted, My family, my mother doesn't, she doesn't have her GED. My mother's working on her GED. She's roughly 70. She's still working on her GED, which I continue to promote her for that. But my father, he had just now recently got his associate degree. That's the highest level of education he achieved. Their mentality, we were coming from an immigrant community, their mentality is work, make money, survive. They didn't know how to make me a doctor. They're saying become a doctor, become a lawyer, become a professional, but they didn't have the knowledge to do these things. They didn't have the experience, the exposure to do them. And they were working crazy hours, and I took advantage of that as a child. Basically, my mother and father used to leave before I left to go to school and come home after I was supposed to come home. So I could have stayed home the entire day without them knowing I went anywhere.
Right.
So, growing up in an immigrant community where we're struggling to pay rent, pay bills, both your family members, sometimes single parent households, they be more challenging. So they tried their best, but there's only so much they can do without the knowledge.
Right. Okay.
And back then, the internet wasn't as accessible. We had the old dial-up AOL.
Yeah. Some people won't even remember that, but yeah, I remember those days. But so I guess so now that I stand corrected that it wasn't being pushed at home, then I guess my second question is, so what even gave you the idea of, at a young age, you wanted to be a doctor? As you mentioned, you didn't see them in Flatbush. So what was it, the Cosby Show? What was it that made you say, I want to do that?
So there was a show on the Learning Channel before reality TV called The Doctors.
Oh, okay.
I used to watch it, I think it was Sunday nights at 8 o'clock. And I would sit down and watch it, and they had doctors performing surgeries, talking to patients, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And that's what that was the initial spark. Then in 7th grade, I remember my 7th grade teacher, Mr. Telefort. We were learning about the cell biology and the mitochondria, and I love biology. And then he told me, to become a doctor, you have to be good in biology. So I put two and two together. I like biology. I want to be a doctor. This will be easy.
Was okay. So I don't want to fast forward until it was easy. We're working our way out of high school, and because as you know, I think we were talking. I was saying that I do a lot of work with high school and middle school students, and so sometimes that's a rough stage of life. Adolescence, and they're impressionable. Did you ever get involved in the wrong crowd? So was there ever that temptation in Flatbush to, because as you said, extracurricular activities, right? I'm assuming we're not talking tutoring, right? So what was the temptation for you? What was like almost like your life could have easily gone in a whole another direction? What was it for you that was almost pulling you in the wrong direction?
A lot of my friends were gangbangers.
Mm,
A lot of things about the gangbang life didn't make any sense to me. I was really into girls. That was my thing.
mm,
And being affiliated with a gang sometimes decreased my ability to get girls. If a girl was in the Bloods, I couldn't talk to the girl in the Bloods.
mm,
So it limited me.
mm.
And I didn't like the idea of everywhere I go, I have to look over my back. And just because someone's wearing another color, we have to pick a fight with them. I don't want to fight with no. I want to fight this guy just wearing a different color. It was and there's a lot of stuff that the gang. Even though my friends were in the gangs and I hang out with my friends a lot, and I got into fights and issues because of the hanging space and hanging out with them. Uh, it was that was the life, growing up in Brooklyn, gangs and stuff like that.
Right, right.
But I never, whatever I did, I'm happy I never got arrested, and that's
Okay.
one of the blessings for me.
Right, right. Okay. Well, I'm really happy that you could just kind of just be transparent and just say, listen, the temptation was around and you had friends who were associated with that lifestyle, but you made a decision to do something different with your life because, sometimes we hear people say things like, I'm a product of my environment, and the reality is what you're saying in this moment is really we are a product of our decisions, the choices that we make in life ultimately,
Definitely,
and
definitely.
so you made a choice to say, no, I want to go to school. I'm going to go, do the home, not, no, excuse me, not homeschool, but you're going to go at night and summer school and do whatever you needed to do to accomplish it. So you graduate now. Which high school was it again that you graduated from?
Clara Barton High School.
Clara Barton.
High
Okay.
school.
And then from there, so you graduate high school, and was it easy to become a doctor? What did those next few years look like? Did you go straight to what school did you go
So
to?
after I graduated high school, I didn't get accepted any colleges,
Okay.
and even if I did get accepted to colleges, my parents didn't have the money to send me to college.
Mm,
So I saw a commercial from the New York National Guard.
okay.
They said they would pay for my school, so I decided to join the army. I didn't know much about the army. I didn't know what it entailed. I just saw the pictures on the screen,
Mm.
and I joined the army. And my first day in the United States Army was September 11, 2001.
September 11th, 9/11.
9/11/2001 was my first day in the army.
Wow. Wow. So what was that like? I mean, for those who might not have been around 2001, that's when the World Trade Center was attacked. So you joined the army on September 11th, 2001. And were you stationed here in New York City, or were you where were you located?
So I technically joined the army in August of 2001
Okay.
with a shipping date of September 11, 2001. That
Mm.
means on September 11, 2001 was the day I was supposed to go to boot camp.
Oh, okay. And what,
So,
okay.
and that would be my first official day in the army.
And so did you actually still start that day with all of what happened on that day?
So at 6:30 in the a.m., my recruiter came and picked me up from home, had my bags packed, and he took me to Fort Hamilton, the military entrance and processing station here in Brooklyn,
Mm.
to ship out. So at around 6:30, I went to the MEPS. I swore in for the second time, and I was just waiting to be shipped out to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And at 8:30, I was sitting in the the cafeteria, and everyone was leaving and going to like this viewing area. And when I walked out, because I was the only one in the left in the cafeteria, they were looking at this big TV screen and they saw a plane flying into the Twin Towers. And I said, "What movie is this?"
Mm-hmm.
One of the sergeants said, "This is not a movie. We're going to war." And that was my first day in the Army.
Right.
So they canceled all the flights. They took us to a hotel in Staten Island. And I said, my father came and picked me up from the hotel, brought me home that night. Next day, my recruiter called and he said, or do you still want to go?
Mm-hmm.
I said, there's nothing in Brooklyn for me. I have to go. Mm. So September 16th is when they rescheduled my flight, and I went to boot camp in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Mm. And so you went to, well, that's amazing. I mean, listen, I've asked a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people say where they were at on September 11th, 2001. I never heard that one before, it's about headed off to boot camp and okay. So what happens after? So you go off to boot camp and so you become enlisted, right? Okay. So what's the next phase in life?
I went to boot camp, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It's 2 months of boot camp, basic training.
Okay.
And then 2 months of we call it advanced individualized training, which is for me was field artillery. I was field artillery soldier, which we fired cannons, and we were basically infantrymen. I did 4 months total of basic training in AIT. Then I got my duty station with Fort Drum, New York. It's upstate, about an hour away from Syracuse. The thing about Fort Drum, New York, is we're the most deployed. The 10th Mountain Division is the most deployed unit in the United States Army.
Wow.
If you remember, what was it? Black Hawk Down?
Yeah.
Movie. The soldiers in that movie was from the 10th Mountain Division.
And it's called the 10th. Say it again.
The 10th Mountain Division.
10th Mountain Division.
From New York.
Okay. Wow.
So I got deployed to Iraq in 2003. We invaded Iraq. I got attached to the 1st 73rd Airborne Brigade out of Vicenza, Italy, and I went with them for my first tour in Iraq. I was in Kirkuk. We did a few months in Kirkuk. Then I came back to New York, my base, and then my unit got deployed to Baghdad, Iraq. We did a year in Iraq, in Baghdad, and I got promoted to a sergeant at the age of 20. I was doing very well in the Army, but I was leading men in combat. I was a squad leader, but I was young, but my body was falling apart. I was having this crazy migraine headaches, back pains, knee pains, and war just started to wear me down. So I really got into quotes back then, because in the military we're surrounded by quotes, things that great men have said, generals and presidents that served in the Army or at West Point and these great institutions. So you're surrounded by greatness, and we're surrounded by great mentors. And that's one thing in the military that's provided for us. And I got really into quotes. And there's one quote that weighed on my head a lot. It said, "Choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life." It's Confucius. Mm-hmm. So I used to think about this quote a lot, and I used to judge my life based on how I woke up in the morning. When I woke up in the morning and I was in Iraq and I had to go put on my boots, I used to say, "Oh man, I gotta go do this stuff." When in medical school, when I woke up, even though it was early and it was long hours, I used to jump up with joy, like, "Yeah, I get to go do this stuff." Mm. But when I was in Iraq and I was thinking about re-enlisting, I wanted to change jobs, because even though I was doing well in the Army, I couldn't continue to be a field artillery soldier anymore. It was just weighing down on me. It's not what I wanted to do with my life. And there's one thing I've learned from this by looking at other people, and that quote, "Choose a job you love, you never have to work a day in your life." Mm-hmm. They had older sergeants than me that hated their lives, and you can tell they hated their job, they hated their career, they were just stuck in the military. And then you had the ones that they loved the Army. Every day they loved waking up, they loved being a soldier. And I didn't want my life to become one like the other ones who hated their life. Mm. So I thought about what I wanted to do. Lucky thing in the Army, you can change jobs. Mm. And I wanted to be a lab tech. Mm. Only thing was, because of my rank, I was too high ranking to switch jobs. That's what the recruiter told me, not the recruiter, the retention officer told me. So I told him, demote me and switch me over. If we demote you, you will be ineligible for enlistment. Why don't you just stay in a field artilleryman? By the time we get back to New York, you'll get promoted again, and you'll be doing well. And I remember I was speaking to one of my mentors, and he said, why don't you just, re-enlist as a field artilleryman? I said, I can't do this stuff anymore. He said, then what are you going to do? I said, maybe I'll become a doctor. I'll get out and become a doctor. And he told me, become a doctor?
Now, how old are you at this time?
I was 21, about to be 22.
Okay, so you'd been in the Army for almost 3 years,
4 going on 5 years.
4 to 5 years, wow. Would you encourage a young person to join the Army? I mean, I know you said about the mentors, but
I would definitely encourage people to join the military. It was a great experience. Joining the military made me the man I am today. If it wasn't for the leadership, the mental fortitude that I developed in the Army, I couldn't be where I am today. I give a lot of praise to the Army, to the man I am today.
And so what do you say, like, for those who come back with PTSD and, we know about like the suicides on bases and things of that nature. Do you think that there's more that we as a society needs to do for those who come back?
Yeah. So the thing with these suicides is the military is a different world, a different mentality when you're in your military. And it's something that even I had to adjust to. In the military, I was a 22-year-old sergeant with respect. Grown men would come to ask me my opinion on matters. I wasn't treated like a child when I was in the Army. I was a 20. Some of them didn't even know my age. I was just a Sergeant Blackman, right? Mm-hmm. Then when I got back to the civilian world, I'm treated like any other 22-year-old kid, being spoken down to, thinking I'm a goofy little child that doesn't know anything. That change in dynamic, the respect aspect, some people can't handle that because you have to train yourself for that. Because civilians are very disrespectful in ways that they don't understand it. Because as a 22-year-old sergeant, I held power, I held respect. Then I went from that to being some stupid little kid, or being perceived as a stupid little kid. I remember when I was talking to my counselor, this young lady, and when I went to Kingsborough Community College before. We'll get to that, but
right.
Speaking to her, telling her I want to graduate within 18 months, and I didn't mind taking extra classes, and she laughed at me, saying she doesn't think I can handle that. She didn't know anything about my background. She didn't know who I am, and she laughing at someone in the military is a high form of disrespect. So if someone would laughed at me when I was a sergeant, I would scream at them. But you can't do that in the civilian world. Right, so they think I'm crazy.
Right.
But being able to adapt is difficult for some soldiers, especially when they're really ingrained in them, their lifestyle. And unfortunately, not a lot is done for them.
Right.
And job opportunities. Like I was a field artilleryman. Mm-hmm. When I came out to civilian life, there's no field artilleryman jobs for me.
Right.
So and some soldiers, they get out not knowing what difficulties they're going to face going back to civilian life. Mm-hmm. They think it's just going to be like when they first join. Because in the military, boot camp is to break you down. The first part of boot camp, basic training, is to break you out that civilian mentality, the civilian habits, and to build you back up. And it hurts. It's painful in the first couple of weeks of boot camp. And it's intentional.
When you say hurt, physically hurt, psychologically?
Physically and mentally. Wow. Waking up at 4:45 in the morning to go for a run. Waking up at 4:45 in the morning and make sure your bed is neat and tight. Because if one sheet is misplaced, they'll just want to flip your bed. It's to teach you attention to detail, and that small mistakes lead to big mistakes. So you have to pay attention to the small details. So the outside looking in is abusive that the drill sergeant flipped your bed because it was a square. But it teaches you gradually attention to detail. The small details count. So when you're in war, when you're in combat, you have to think about the small things. You have to think about the big things also. Attention to detail. Discipline is the key.
Mm. Wow. Well, I needed to take a note on that one. Sometimes we forget about the small details, you know. And so yeah, okay, yeah. I listen. I could ask you 100 more questions about the military, you know, because I think sometimes, especially young people, they want to join the service, right, for whatever reason, and I think that structure, that discipline, is so needed in the lives of so many people, all of us, but especially our young people, and they lack that, you know, and sometimes, you know, they go there and they go, how can you get the discipline without the mental anguish of whatever war imparts on a person? You know, how can you get the boot camp part, right, without all of the other part? And I don't know if you can have that. I don't, you know, but I understand what it does to break you out of what society has taught you and build you up for what the army or the military needs you to be. But then there's a tail end of what you have to now go ahead and do. You know, so it's like a good and a bad, it sounds like. You know?
Thing is also, war is not easy.
Mm.
You know, I've seen a lot of death. I've seen a lot of suffering.
Mm.
I'm not going to make it like it's sunshines and rainbows.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like I said, I grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn, so I was exposed to violence very early in my age.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't affect me as much as it would affect maybe someone coming from Wisconsin who never seen someone get shot before they went to the military, or someone get stabbed, or things like that. Mm-hmm. That nature. So to me, it was commonplace, unfortunately.
Right. Okay.
And a lot of our teenagers right now suffer from PTSD,
mm-hmm.
and they've never been to war, but they grew up in Brooklyn or in maybe Newark, New Jersey, in Baltimore, and they suffering from PTSD, but it's not focused on as much as a veteran coming back from Iraq.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, as they say. That's right. They hear the gunshots, they see the stabbings, they hear the sirens, all of that, and yeah, and they go to school every day and try to pretend like everything is fine. And it becomes, you know, violence becomes normal, and
Definitely.
Right. So I have to ask. Now you come back and you decide, all right, I want to be a doctor. You return back to Brooklyn. You just immediately hit the ground running, or did it take you some time to adjust to? You had to decompress from everything that you saw. What was that phase like for you?
So as soon as I got back, I moved to the Bay Ridge section of Brooklyn, and I started Kingsborough Community College.
Okay.
And I didn't have no mentors. I didn't have anyone telling me, you know, how to become a doctor. I just knew I needed to go to college. So like you said, I hit the ground running. I would go to school from 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, just going to classes. I did very well in my classes. I think I graduated with like 3.6 or 3.7 GPA. Mm-hmm. And then I transferred to Northeastern University in Boston, did well there. Came back to Brooklyn. I worked at the Department of Defense for a little while until I got accepted to Howard University College of Medicine.
So just real quick. So you go to Kingsborough Community College, graduate, got your associates. Then you move up to Boston and you now get your bachelor's.
Yes.
Okay. And you were able to just stay on pace. Did you work during that time?
No. So the good thing about being in the Army is the GI Bill.
Oh, okay.
Well, because of the GI Bill pays for your tuition and they give you a stipend to live. So instead of a lot of soldiers, they come back and they go to school and they work. My mentality was school is my job. I went to school. My job is to get good grades. I was getting enough money from the military GI Bill and from the money I saved from being in Iraq to live a comfortable and not work. Just go to school.
Wow. Okay. So, what year did you get started at Kingsborough? What year?
2006.
Okay, so 2006. How long did it take you to graduate?
So I could have graduated in 18 months, but I got accepted to this program, and they requested that I stay for another 6 months.
Okay, so about 2 years.
It took me 2 years.
Okay, and so then you go up to which school in Boston again?
Northeastern University, and
Northeastern.
I graduated from there in 18 months.
Okay. So we're at almost like 2010 now, roughly.
Yeah, 2009 is when I graduated from Northeastern. Then I
Okay.
took a year off, took the MCATs, applied to medical school, interviewed, and I got accepted for 2010 for Howard University.
Oh, so now you go to DC.
I went to
You
DC.
okay. And how long was medical school? Well, what was that like to go to a HBCU? Was
It's
that
great.
different?
It's definitely different. Howard University, Black excellence. That's Howard University.
Mhm.
Black lawyers, Black doctors. Everything is Black at Howard. This is
Yeah.
it's a blessing and a curse
Why?
because the rest of the world is not like that. The rest of the country is not like that. And even
Mm,
though everyone is Black at Howard, when you go out to other places, you have to be able to learn to be able to interact with other people of other races.
mm.
And you don't get much of that at Howard.
So, but you got that experience from being in armed service, though, from being around
Yeah,
the. So,
yeah, multicultural.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
multicultural experience from the military, from Kingsborough Community College, was very multicultural. Northeastern was very white. It was very white at Northeastern.
Okay, so you go from very white to very black.
Correct.
Okay, the dichotomy there. Interesting. What was that experience in going to school around all white people in Boston, and then you go to an